Welcome back. This morning, we're spotlighting the possible red flags in the disappearance and the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto. An arrest affidavit says that the suspect in this case, Stephen Stearns, who was the boyfriend of Madeline's mother, was abusing the girl since she was 11 years old. Soto's body was found in a wooded area in Florida days after she had been reported missing. And now police are holding Stearns on sexual battery charges and on possession of child abuse material charges. I want to be clear here, he still has not been charged with murder. We can assume that there's an ongoing investigation, maybe a grand jury presentation, perhaps even happening right now. But as of this morning, he is not charged with her murder. I want to get to the details in the affidavit. And before I do, if any of you at home have any children in the room, you may want to mute the TV, step out with the kids for just a moment. This is really upsetting stuff. It's graphic stuff. And sadly, when you're in criminal court, and I've had to do this stuff when I was a prosecutor, you have to read things that are very unpleasant, very upsetting into the record. So here we go. Quote, upon reviewing the contents of Stefan's phone, several images and videos were located which depicted an apparent child with her breasts, vagina, and anal opening as the focal point of the pictures and videos. There were also pictures and videos depicting an apparent child's vagina and mouth being penetrated by a penis. It goes on to say the warrant is to charge the act that occurred before or on August of 2022 when the victim was 11 years old. This is really sickening stuff here. I have two tremendous guests I want to bring in now and talk about this. The alleged sexual abuse of that beautiful child said to be going on in that home by mom's boyfriend. I have with me jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine, and psychotherapist and author and the host of the podcast Talking Live, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Good morning to you both. I want to start by talking about Madeline's mom. And I have a clip I'd like to begin by playing. And this is where she's describing the last conversation that she had with her daughter before she was killed.
What was the last thing, I guess, the conversation that you two had, you and your daughter?
We spoke about her birthday party. She had a birthday party on Sunday. She had a great time. I couldn't make it because I was working, but she had an amazing time. She was so happy with all her gifts. I told her good night, and yeah, that was it. I was the one who took her to school in the morning. That was my partner. But yeah.
She said she took her to school. Susan Constantine, you assess behavior, body language all the time. Do we have a pants on fire situation with mom here?
We sure do. You know, I was called right after this occurred from Fox 35 to analyze this video, and it stood out to me so strongly. I said, why does she have such a massive fear response? Now, she could be fearful, of course, that, you know, daughter is missing, but this shaking and trembling, the dry mouth, the lost appearance in her face, to me, it screamed that there was a lot more behind that fear expression than what she's telling us. And she's also doing a lot of micro shrugging, which is on one shoulder. Those are what we call leakages that pop out when it literally cancels out the words you said before that. So when I watched the overall video and also the responses from the boyfriend in the back and the other videos, it was really telling to me that there was something that was going on with the boyfriend, because when you synced it to her words, with we took them to the stop, then it was I did, and of course it was then he did. It all what happened was is they contradicted one another. And the other thing that I saw that was huge is when the boyfriend had said that she was sleeping in the car most of the way. And when we hear taking or sleeping, those are permanent words. Sleeping is dead. Taken is someone that is dead, or the word God. Very revealing.
Oh my gosh, it's so sickening and heartbreaking, Susan. Thank you for all of that. And when I look at Mom there in that video, I keep thinking to myself, you know, this case is far from over, as we know. And if Mom knew, if she knew, and if that abuse was happening and she didn't stop it, she has blood on her hands and she could be charged too. So she's a big question mark right now. How much did she know? Was she aware? And if she was, she had a duty to protect her child. Dr. Robbie, can we talk a little bit more about this and with sexual assault victims who are minors? When you have a child's brain, this child is 11 years old when this abuse is said to have begun. What happens often with abusers and how they put children in fear of telling a responsible adult about what's going on?
You know, I've worked with many patients who were victims of sexual crime, either to a stepfather or to a father. And what happens is there's a grooming that goes on. So in some cases, it happens so gradually that the child can feel good in the father or stepfather's presence when the sexual abuse is happening. It's an abuse, but it's also a way to get attention, and it's very confusing to a child, and it puts them out of step with their age group, and it can really complicate their relationships, not only with themselves, but with future relationships moving into the future. So this is just a very disturbing circumstance. You will hear some single mom say, I don't want to date men because I don't trust men around my young children or young daughters. So there is a sense that these things can happen, but it is horribly devastating. And you can see that the boyfriend was a very good-looking man, and perhaps the mother was in this state of just wanting to hang on to having a boyfriend and look the other way.
Mm-hmm. And that does happen, Dr. Robbie. You're right. We had a case we were going to broadcast it on court TV, but the mother ended up pleading. One of my friends and colleagues, I handled it. He's been an analyst on our air. His name's Jeff Braziz. And it was that situation where he prosecuted boyfriend and mother wanted to keep the boyfriend so badly, she was allowing the abuse to occur, looking the other way deliberately. It was an infuriating case for everybody who knew what was right and what was going on, and to try to put a stop to it. Dr. Robbie, to that point, let's just say a child is experiencing that abuse and is having that feeling like they want to tell their parent, but they're afraid of consequences, embarrassed, shame, whatever the case may be. What advice do you have, please, Dr. Robbie, for parents to create those relationships with their kids that they shouldn't ever have to be fearful to tell them if they're being sexually assaulted?
You know, in some situations, these families have such poor boundaries that it is a reflection of something really going very wrong within the family unit. But assuming that it's a somewhat healthy situation, you want to tell your child that there's nothing that they can, that their child can tell them where they would not show up for them and be loyal to them as a parent. There's nothing so bad that would ever interfere with their love for them or their desire to protect them. And this starts early on, you know, where moms talk to kids and say, hey, if anyone asks you to do something that you're not comfortable with, you come to me. You feel empowered to say no. That is happening a lot more now with younger kids. They're learning in school. So I think we are getting better at empowering children and saying just because you're a child doesn't mean an adult can ask you to do things that you are not comfortable with. But sadly, in a lot of these dysfunctional homes, these moms look the other way and or are told and still do nothing.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate all the insight, Dr. Robbie. Thank you. Susan, I want to go back to you, please, and talk more about Stephen Stearns, his arrest, the reaction afterward. I know you were analyzing some video evidence, or I guess I should just say videos. Who knows? Could become evidence. Tell us your thoughts, please.
Well, at the arrest, he didn't show any emotion whatsoever. He didn't even hardly make eye contact. But when we're looking at the video of when he was interviewed and he was fake crying, you could see that he was strained his voice when he was talking. He tried to appear as if he was sad and worried, but it wasn't consistent. Someone like myself, and also doctor, is that we know what real true emotions look like and how they morph on your face. And when you see this in this picture here, he's got that very stone-faced appearance. This is a person that is already aware of what's going on. I think he anticipated it. I think that he knew it, because there is no sense of resistance whatsoever. Doesn't state or doesn't appear as if he's contradicting what he's being accused of. He's like submitting to it. So anyway, I think these kind of guys are very clever. I've covered a lot of cases. I've worked on a lot of sex battery cases when it comes to minors. And it's just appalling how many times that parents allow their children to be around boyfriends alone and stepfathers alone. Most of those cases of what I see, they're always that scenario. Very few has to do with dad. It's usually stepdad or the boyfriend. Never leave them alone, ever. And not only that, don't let them into your lives, because these are predators. They know how to get inside your home and connect with the family and make them feel like they're a family unit, which is probably what mom really wanted. And then they ease themselves into being alone with that child, and that's when the abuse occurs, behind those closed doors.
Excellent insight, Susan Constantine. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, a great conversation. We will continue it, I promise, with this story, as we know this one is far from over. Thank you both so much for your time and expertise. We're going to hit a break, friends. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
You're going to learn that those kids would still be alive today, that James Crumbly seized any one of the tragically small and easy opportunities given to him to prevent his son from committing murder.
Will a jury find James Crumbly responsible for the crimes of involuntary manslaughter?